and the timer. Let's begin. You're in the grocery store on your weekly shopping trip, and nestled in your cart among the meat and the dairy are your usual grocery staples. Whole grain bread, pasta, pretzels for the kids, pancake mix, cereal, and your favorite brand of protein bar. Now, you may not be aware of it, but within your groceries is a threat to your family's health just waiting to be consumed. What is it? It's wheat. We find wheat products everywhere. It's grown in large amounts, manufactured into our favorite foods, and then we eat it. But we could and should be making safer choices. And today, I'm here to persuade you that eating wheat is detrimental towards your health, your family's health, and the health of the American public. We're going to be looking at how wheat has changed. After that, we'll discuss how modern wheat is a hazard to our health. And then I will personally challenge you to make a change. But first, we must look at how wheat has changed. Now, behind corn and rice, wheat is the largest produced grain based on acreage, with around 754 million metric tons used worldwide last crop year. But the wheat today is covered with pesticides, it's been genetically engineered and modified, and our bodies were not meant to consume or digest it. Although we do know some things about original wheat. Scientists know it was completely different than today's wheat. In fact, the very first known and cultivated wheat, called einkorn, only contained 14 chromosomes. Now, einkorn probably cross-pollinated with different grasses, creating emmer, the next wheat type. And emmer is believed to be the wheat mentioned in the Bible. Although when Jesus taught us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," I don't think the bread we eat today is what he had in mind. In fact, over the generations, wheat has been mutated so much that scientists now recognize modern wheat to be, and I quote, a 42 chromosome, ultra-hybridized, high-yield semi-dwarf strain. Sounds complex, doesn't it? See, our modern wheat is drastically different compared to the original, and it's a hazard to our health. So let's look at how it's a hazard. Now, unfortunately, wheat is marketed as this super healthy grain that everybody needs in their diet. Although I'm convinced that wheat should be avoided. And so are William Davis and Mark Hyman, who are both doctors and who are both New York Times best-selling authors. In fact, a lot of my information comes from Dr. Davis's book, Wheat Belly. First, let's look at weight. Now, I know a lot of people are sensitive about this issue, but that's why I chose to talk about it. Last year, according to healthdata.org, and I quote, 2.1 billion people, nearly 30% of the world's population, are either obese or overweight. The rise in global obesity rates over the last 3 decades has been substantial and widespread, presenting a major public health epidemic in both the developed and the developing world, end quote. Now, Americans aren't immune to this health crisis. It has been estimated that 160 million Americans are either obese or overweight. Now, when most of us think about gaining weight, we tend to think of soda, fast food, candy, lack of exercise. But are we considering wheat? You see, when we consume high amounts of modern wheat, the complex elements break down and affect our abdomens, bloating them, adding unnecessary fat, and resulting in unhealthy guts and organs. But wheat does not only affect our weight. Wheat affects our brains. Right now, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, estimates that 1 in 68 children in the U.S. are on the autism spectrum. And according to CHAD, the National Resource Center on ADHD, 6.4 million children have been diagnosed with ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, autism and ADHD are disorders that affect our brains and therefore our behavior. They're both really hard to cure, and scientists are still researching ways to treat them. Now, Dr. Davis addresses these, stating that wheat may not be the cause of ADHD and autism, but wheat appears to be associated with worsening symptoms of these conditions. In fact, one of the most recent discoveries is that gut and organ health and brain health are linked. These are the same guts and organs affected by wheat consumption. And now certain doctors are starting to advise parents to eliminate wheat from their children's diets because of wheat's effects on the guts, brain, and nervous system. and parents are witnessing great improvement in their children's health and behaviors. So wheat negatively affects our weight and our brains, but it also negatively affects our blood. If you aren't diabetic, you may know someone who is, because according to 2014, World Health Organization from 2014, diabetes affected 400 million people. And since 2014, the numbers have continued to rise. Now, diabetics have to carefully watch their sugar intake, but here's some disturbing news. According to a new study, blood sugar was tested after the consumption of 2 slices of whole grain bread, a small quantity of table sugar, and a Snickers bar. Now, blood sugar is measured by the glycemic index, or GI for short. The Snickers bar raised blood sugar levels to 41 GI, the table sugar to 59 GI, and the 2 slices of whole grain bread raised blood sugar levels to 72 GI. That means the sandwich you're going to have for lunch is worse for you than the candy bar you're not supposed to eat. Now, Dr. Davis has seen patients with type 1 diabetes improve dramatically, and patients with type 2 diabetes be completely cured of their diabetic state when he had them on a wheat-free diet. In fact, Dr. Davis himself was a type 2 diabetic, but after omitting wheat from his diet, his conditions eventually improved, and he is not diabetic anymore. Now, when I researched wheat, I happened to find over 200 ways that wheat negatively impacts our bodies. Celiac disease, schizophrenia, irritable bowel syndrome, liver disease, infertility, asthma, different cancers, rheumatoid arthritis, and osteoporosis, blindness are all just a few more examples of the dangers of eating wheat. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that you will get any of these diseases from eating wheat. I'm saying that others have gotten them and that you are at risk, no matter how organic the label says it is. So now, you may be thinking, well, how can I avoid wheat? It's in everything. What can I eat instead? Nothing. I'm totally kidding. The best way to avoid wheat products is to read ingredient lists and labels on packaged foods. And instead of eating wheat products, try eating lean proteins and veggies, nuts and fruits, and other naturally organic foods. After a while, your body's cravings will reset themselves, and wheat products won't be on your grocery list. And you won't be tempted to eat the goodies and judge hospitality. And the great thing about not eating wheat is you're not as hungry all the time, and you'll feel full with less. And from what I've experienced, it's an amazing feeling. But here is my challenge to you. Don't eat any wheat for 3 weeks and record your progress. If you start to feel better over that time period, that's great, because you may experience deeper sleep, weight loss, more energy, maybe even skin rashes going away. Now, after that 3 weeks is over, eat wheat again and take note of your side effects. How do you feel? Sick? Do you have nausea, brain fog, or diarrhea? Are you bloated? Are you more restless at night? If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, then your body is possibly rejecting wheat. Now, my mother and sister have not eaten wheat in 3 years, and their health has dramatically improved. And I myself gave up wheat 8 months ago when I realized my clothes were getting a little tighter each week. Now, within the first 3 months, I lost over 20 pounds, and since then have been able to sustain a healthy weight. And the only change in my diet was giving up wheat. So why don't you go into summer with a new wheat-free diet? Because besides weight, what's to lose? Today, we looked at how wheat has changed, and how this changed modern wheat may affect our guts, brains, and blood. And then I gave you a personal challenge. Now, you may be thinking, some of this sounds anecdotal and unproven, but I want to make a comparison for a moment. Some people can smoke cigarettes their whole lives and live to be 100 years old, but that does not mean tobacco products aren't unhealthy. And the same is true of consuming wheat. Research is finding more and more ways that wheat is a detriment to our overall health and behaviors. Now, since I've given up wheat, I feel so much healthier and happier, and I want to share this with all of you because you have the opportunity to change your diet. In fact, the health of your future generation starts with the changes you can make today.